Alright guys, Painboy Zogleg wanted me to check out the 5 most insane orcs in Warhammer 40k lore. And this was done by Majorkill. Now, 5 most insane orcs in 40k lore. Overfiend of Octarius, let's see, of course, Gazgul, you have, Urlok, you have the Beast, you have Snagrod, Captain Badrook, you have Face Rip. I can't remember what the original name is. Tuska Demon-Killer. Duh. You have did I say Snagrod? Maybe Buzzjob. Oh God. The Arch Arsonist. There's so many. There's literally a mountain of deranged orcs that are out there. So, we're just going to jump into this, see what Majorkill has to say. Go on from there. Here, let me get this, yeah, there we go. Here we go. And go.
It's no secret the Games Workshop loves Space Marines above all else. They have literally hundreds of named characters split across the legions and chapters, dozens of those named characters having tabletop models themselves. The Orks, on the other hand, have Gazkull and pretty much just Gazkull when it comes to tabletops named characters.
And that's sad.
It's an absolute tragedy since Ork players are known to be by far the coolest people, and I don't play Orks. Now,
there was a guy who legitimately, he would paint himself in green paint, and he was swole as hell, and he would come in yelling and screaming every time he brought his Ork army. We knew he was coming to play Orks. It's just fun times.
I know they have very recently released 2 new Ork characters, bringing the grand total to 3. Wow. But there are plenty of really awesome orcs in the lore of 40k, and if GW won't give them the respect of a tabletop model, then at least I can give them the respect of a spotlight for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yay.
Speaking of legendary orcs with tabletop models, the latest and probably my favorite so far major mini is out, the Ork Demon-Killer. This was a joy to produce, slapping on numerous battle trophies as literal armor, while still showing that despite technically being in service to the Blood God, the Ork Demon-Killer is just as patriotic to Gork and Mork as he's ever been. Despite, the subtle changes his corrupted body is going through. While he isn't massive, he does scale larger than Ork boys and knobs as befitting his status as a legendary war boss. His proportions line up more with the new Ork models rather than the older, goofier ones. His base is also custom, featuring a large demon skull as well as volcanic glass. Overall, very appropriate to his vibe.
Nice.
So if you wanted to get your very own Ork Demon Killer for your army, or you just want an awesome, unique new model to paint, then link is below to pick this bad boy up. Remember, shipping is free on all orders over $70 US, so why not pick a few other models while you're there, like the King Ork for example. Today we'll go over the lore of the 5 best orcs in 40k lore that are relatively unknown or don't have a tabletop model, hopefully showing off that the orcs have more than just Gazkull swinging for them. Now let's get into it.
Seriously, there are so many orcs that deserve it.
There's no point beating around the bush with this one. The first orc out of the 5 today is probably pretty recognizable. Tuska Demon-Killer,
yes.
The war boss that decided to yeet his wire into the realms of chaos because he thought fighting demons was fun. Now, generally yeeting into hell is a very bad idea, and almost always results in instant insanity, demonic possession, and all-round bad times.
Yes.
But orcs didn't get the memo. Their brains aren't too worried about petty, stupid things like going mad. So Tuska and his army were able to tear through and sack multiple demon worlds, getting Khorne's direct attention in the process. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Tuska started off as any other war boss, in command of a ship with an okay army looking for a good scrap. He was somewhat famous amongst orcs, known for his obsession with fighting enemies that were bigger and scarier than he, which isn't exactly a unique orc trait, but you'll see what I mean. During warp transit, a big ass demon got aboard Tuska's ship and started tearing through his boys.
Yep.
It's not clear what kind of demon it was, but it was pretty gnarly.
I did a 5-ish on Tuska Demon-Killer. I think it was like episode 7 or 8. Actually, I did 2. One from the perspective of the orcs, which you guys didn't like too much, and I understand why. But at the same token, yeah.
Tuska, with a massive stiffy for battle, charged the demon and the two punched on, with Tuska Mortal Kombating that bitch with his power claw, killing the demon and claiming its horns as his trophy. See, this was a bit unusual as most demon bodies would vanish after being slain. However, Tuska was able to keep an aspect of their body to have as a trophy, likely using his wah energy to prevent them from being properly banished. Hence, Tuska is one of the few people in the galaxy that can actually mount demon skulls on his trophy rack. With such a good fight, Tuska had a epiphany. Killing demons was a fucking vibe. So using a shitload of weird boys, his Ork psychers, Tuska was able to bypass the Cadian Gate and Leroy Jenkins into the Eye of Terror.
Yes,
the Imperium was surprised but didn't see much point in trying to stop two of their enemies from fighting, so Tuska didn't have too much drama getting into the Eye. In the Eye, he burnt Nurglite Swamp Worlds, shattered Titsunichi and Crystal Worlds, and cocked Block Slaneshi Slut Worlds. It was only when Tuska arrived at a Khornite world did he meet his match. Against him was a large Khornite army led by the Blood Prince, an exalted demon prince of Khorne. Now Tuska was a G. He was tough, strong, and had put in a good shift. But despite his determination, the Blood Prince was too good. As Tuska lay dying, his remaining weird boys were able to distract the Blood Prince, allowing Tuska to literally slice off the Blood Prince's cock and balls with his power claw, a final solid gag before Tuska expired. Khorne was like, holy shit, that was fucking awesome, and decided to revive Tuska and his armies to fight the Khornite demons again. Day after day, Tuska and his boys were overjoyed to fight and die. It wasn't like some Dormammu time loop bullshit. Tuska remained his memory of each death, yet he didn't care.
Right.
After countless reincarnations, Khorne was so impressed that they still had the will to fight that he teleported them from the demon world straight into his realm, so that they may do battle every single day in front of his brass citadel. It's rare to get that level of respect from Khorne,
Yes.
especially from an Ork that still praises Gork and Mork. Now you know why I made the Ork Demon-Killer. What makes an Ork Orky? Well, in honesty, it's all about having fun and doing really whack shit, like how Warlord Grizzguts travelled back in time and killed his past self in order to get a copy of his own favourite gun, not
I did a 5-ish on this guy too.
stopping for a second to worry about the consequences to that kind of action. And boy, were there consequences. Let me explain. Grizzguts was a competent and vicious Ork, leading a large war that was about to devastate Imperial space. However, while commencing his warp jump, something extremely rare happened. He, along with his war, travelled back in time and appeared where they had entered the warp, coming face to face with a past copy of himself and his entire past war. So now there were two Grizzguts and two wars. This is extremely rare. Seeing the past and future is pretty common in 40k, but actually travelling between the two is not. Usually it takes literal god power to do it, but Grizzguts managed it by mistake. Seeing that his past self had his favourite shooter, and that all Orks love as much Dakka as possible, Grizzguts killed his past self, taking the second copy of his gun as well as doubling his war's size. However, the Orks within the war were so rattled by what had just happened, and weren't too comfortable hanging out with themselves.
Like, it legitimately caused the Orks to have an existential crisis.
It got to a point that the war erupted into civil war, destroying itself in the process and saving countless lives that would have been devastated by the double war. It's unclear what happened to Grizzguts, as I don't think he's been mentioned since, but it's more than likely he died alongside his war, dual-wielding his gun like a boss. If you were ordered to bring down an enemy titan by yourself 1 million out of a million times, you would fail. It's one of the few things that are a genuine 0% success rate, as you would have to somehow penetrate the titan's void shield, armor plating, and then get inside and kill its crew, all the while the titan is trying to murk you. Good luck,
Slime Arbo did it.
mate. However, for Uthak, this was to be his moment of glory. While attacking an Imperial world, the Bad Moon's boss Uthak, fighting under the banner of the Mechlord's Tekwa, was faced with some resistance in the form of 4 enemy titans. Now, the Orks did have a Mega Gargant to even the odds, but Mega Gargants aren't exactly known for their maneuverability, hence the Imperial Titans were able to strafe it and dodge and weave out of its main fire. This was unacceptable. What the fuck is the point of a Titan if you use it to dodge? Now, a quick note, Uthak wasn't some random Ork we had just met. He had gone through some shit on the way to the world. Old mate had just managed to smash a Castellan robot apart, with the subsequent explosion ripping him open. However, he was a true git, and respected by his Ork brethren. An Ork pain doc cut off his head and stuck it onto his old boss's body, making him more powerful.
Orks.
Reattaching decapitated
If anything he says doesn't make any sense to you, just remember Orks. Just say it in the mirror until it makes sense.
Ork heads to larger bodies to shortcut their way through bodybuilding is a very good strategy with the Orks, and something that has been used multiple times now.
Yes, it has.
Uthak was back and better than ever. However, this does bring us to our Titan conundrum. Uthak possessed something of an imagination, and if there's anything we know about Orks, it's that their imaginations can be quite powerful. So grabbing a fellow Ork and a squig, he stole an Ork motorbike off a rival Ork along with that Ork's Gretchen before full throttling towards the enemy Warlord Titan. Now, this wasn't just any Ork motorbike. It had like a mini warp drive on it that meant that upon pushing a big red button, it would briefly...
This is in the book. What's the name of the book? Oh my god, I'm gonna hit myself in the face for not knowing this one. Ugh, screw.
Transition into the warp and reappear further up the road, like a
Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Check the comments. You want to get this book. It's one of the best books that I've ever read. It was amazing.
mini teleport, similar to what the Eldar warp spiders do. The Orks reappeared directly in front of the Imperial Warlord Titan, and with the speed of the bike, the effects of the warp spaghetti, and some good old-fashioned War energy, they breached the Titan's void shields and smacked onto its armored hull. Miraculously, both Orks, the Gretchen, and the Squid survived the impact unharmed. They cut their way through the Titan's eyes, which placed them directly in its command center. From here, they massacred the crew, including the Moriarty, Princeps, and the Tech Priest in pretty comical fashion.
Yes.
Like the Squig was trying to eat the Gretchen, but missed and accidentally ate the Princeps' head instead. After fucking around a bit, the Titan tipped over and the small band of Orks jumped out, charging once again at Imperial forces. Absolute beasts. Funnily enough,
Okay, so here's a funny story about the Squig. He was trying to figure out a name for the Squig, and he named it because he had heard the Moderati while they were dying yelling about the Princeps. He named the Squig Princess.
this wasn't the only time in the lore that an especially excited Ork managed to take down a Titan by itself. Wazdakka Gutsmek also managed it. Wazdakka is a legend amongst Orks, the greatest Ork bike boy to ever live, as he drives around his obscenely modified war bike that has the stopping power of a tank. Although he was already a legend enough to form his own War made entirely of bike boys and speed freaks, his name would be immortalized on the world of Skalex 6. His army was getting shredded by a Warlord Titan, with their low caliber bullets unable to do a dent. So Wazdakka was like Leroy Jenkins and drove his bike full speed at the Titan's head. Now his bike didn't have a warp drive, so he hit that void shield like a motherfucker head on, somehow managing to penetrate it and the armor beneath, setting himself ablaze as he quickly massacred any crew who had survived the initial impact. Now void shields can withstand shit like volcano cannons, so how did an Ork bike break through it and the armor beneath it? Unclear, but when it comes to Orks, the how isn't very relevant.
Right.
The final Ork worth talking about is none other than the Beast. This is a very, very random part of 40k lore, where the Orks somehow emerged as the
And for a lot of us, it's really controversial.
galaxy's greatest threat and literally had the Imperium at its mercy, all because of some hectic Prime Ork, a demi-Krork called the Beast, which popped out of nowhere and was so powerful that his War energy was able to ascend the entire Ork population multiple tiers up the intelligence tree. They started farming, using diplomacy, and had literal fucking teleporting attack moons. The entire Imperial Fist chapter was killed during the War of the Beast, and even Vulcan, the strongest Primarch, wasn't able to cleanly slay the Beast, instead having to tackle it into a vat of pure War energy, which annihilated both of them. It's often theorized that the reason why the Emperor was so desperate to rush the Great Crusade was because he wanted to be ready to take on the Beast. After all, the Imperium only ended up beating the Beasts, and I mean beasts because there was actually like 12 of them, because of some wacky reverse War bullshit. In a straight up war, the Imperium had zero chance and would have struggled even with a united Imperium with its legions and Primarchs intact. Overall, a very bizarre time. However, the Beast was no joke, and I find it pretty funny how most people don't seem to know of or speak about the most powerful Ork to ever live in the past 60 million years. Orks deserve more love, and this comes from a guy that is never going to paint an Ork army in my life. The one on my shelf behind me was bought off a mate. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Ork Demon-Killer, and if you haven't after seeing the Orks in this video, then you're a right git. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more Orky content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you.
Guys, to be quite honest with you, I hated the War of the Beast because it was just so... Like, that's where we get the Harlequins teleporting into the Imperial Palace and saying that it was a diplomatic mission. That's where the entire Imperial Fist chapter was wiped out, and they initiated the Last Wall Protocol and rebuilt the Imperial Fists. That's why, you know, the 8th Company of the Imperial Fist resembles the Black Templars, because they are Black Templars. It just, I did not like that series at all, but it is what it is. As far as everything else goes, guys, I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't mention a few other Orks, but that's neither here nor there. Of course, Ghazghkull should be at the top of the list. The Arch Arsonist should be at the top of the list, but at the same should be in the list. But at the same time, whichever Ork is the Arch Arsonist really depends on a myriad of factors. In any case, guys, all of Majorkill's links, including the link for that mini, is going to be down below, and they'll be right next to mine, including my Patreon, PayPal, all that other kind of stuff. Guys, I'm heading out. I will catch you next time.